What is good, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And this one I wanted to break down what's going on with the overall market, what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers, what's happening with the news affecting the markets, and what data is coming out for tomorrow. It's going to be very, very important. But before I do anything like this, before I talk about why on earth many tickers out there may bounce very, very soon, in my opinion, let me just mention a couple of things. I'm firstly not a financial planner, so take none of this as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, you are guaranteed up to 12 free stocks. The offer ends very soon, in just about 8 days, so check it out before they run out. Anyways, let's break down what's going on with the market and Tesla. Tesla was down 1.78% for the day, and SPY was also down, so was the QQQ, the Nasdaq, and almost every stock out there. But the market was down today due to the fact that we had some new data that came out, suggesting that there could be some more upside to inflation very soon. Let me just quickly talk about this. So, the data came out, and I was warning everyone about this, that when this data drops, it's going to cause a very big move, either to the upside or the downside for the markets. And the data dropped. The PMI report ended up coming out very, very tight, and the market didn't like it that much, so it started dropping a little bit. And then at about 10 o'clock a.m. today, Eastern time, we had even more data coming out, the ISM services data. Most of it was pretty decent, in my opinion, except the ISM services prices ended up going up. This showed that the services prices went up. The overall index was at 58.9, which is higher than the forecast of 56.4. So that's with the Saudi Arabia news about them cutting, the oil production by 1.3 million barrels per day until like December as of right now. All of that came together, and that just led to fears about inflation, and many of the Fed speakers came out talking about how there could be more rate hikes coming, and this led the market to selling off. Now, with all of that going on, the question is what's happening for tomorrow? Well, in the morning, we have the unit labor costs report coming out. We also have non-farm productivity. Those are not as important as, I would say, initial jobless claims 1 hour before the market opens. And then after that, when all the jobs numbers come out tomorrow morning, then we have some Fed speakers 30 minutes after the market opens. And then during the last 30 minutes in the last hour of the trading days, we have more and more Fed speakers from Bowman to Bostic to Williams from the Fed. So tomorrow is going to be a big Fed speaker day, and also the initial jobless claims in the morning. Now, when it comes to Tesla, we had some news that came out. The Tesla Model 3 Highland has come out and caught the attention of a major rival. William Lee Bin, the CEO of NIO, actually attended the big event at the Munich Auto Show in Germany, and he was looking at the Tesla Model 3. Very, very good to get some ideas about their new concepts. Now, it's pretty interesting as well. It just shows how popular and how powerful Tesla's branding is, how amazing their vehicles are, and why it's getting the attentions of other rival CEOs. So it's very, very cool stuff. It really shows how great Tesla is. Even the rivals come to visit and see how great their cars are. And in my opinion, very, very interesting stuff. Now, could they be looking for more ideas, just looking at what Tesla's up to? Sure, they could be doing that, or they could just be very interested in the vehicles too. There's so many different reasons why they could be there. And I just see this as a good sign for Tesla. It really shows how, powerful they are and how they could bring even the haters there, no matter how much hate they get, or anyone from rivals to other CEOs and etc. It just shows how amazing the company is. Now, to add on to this, there's some big news that came out. Tesla suppliers are coming out and saying that by 2026 or 2027, the Mexico production start date could be announced, and they could start producing cars over there in Mexico. So that's some very, very big news for Tesla. The location was recently announced, but now production could be starting very soon. But there are other sources, according to Reuters, that even in 2025, they could be starting production. They're not too sure about that, but it could be happening even sooner than expected. So we're going to be watching to see if that ends up being the case. I don't really know yet. I don't even know which sources they're referring to, but either way, within the next, I would say 2 to 3 years, they should be starting production very soon in Mexico. That's going to continue to help them to grow. So with all these new ones coming out, they're still working on the expansion phases and the growth phase, which could slow down their productivity temporarily because they have to make improvements to the factory in itself to become more efficient and to scale it even more. So more expansions have to be made. That's why Tesla was prepared to expand in Germany. And it's not just expansions alone, but also their rate of productivity, their efficiencies, and other things like that. So they're continuing to work on that. I think that's going to be very good with the new gigafactories. And we have more potentially coming out as the years progress, which is another very, very bullish catalyst for the long term of this company. Now, one thing that's good about Tesla stock in particular is that the price pairs ratio is still relatively high. See how high this is compared to like these levels down here, or even like down here? That tells us that Tesla has relative strength. Tesla is still holding up quite decently relative to the markets. I was talking about this earlier too. On a seasonality basis, Thursdays tend to not be the strongest of days. We're only green about 48% of the time, so it's still a coin flip pretty much. We tend to see more volatility during, I would say, the fourth hour of the day, or around 12 o'clock p.m. Eastern time, or at about 2 o'clock p.m. as well. We tend to see Tesla make bigger swings. And finally, the short interest of Tesla starting to go up a little bit more, as we saw 41 million Tesla shares being shorted. And the more they try to short Tesla, the more likely it is for them to end up covering their positions if Tesla does make a big move to the upside. And that's part of why Tesla held up very nicely, especially yesterday. We saw some short covering as we saw that decrease. Now look at the volume. We had about 116 million in volume. Tesla did drop pretty hard to start us off, but it wasn't that bad because the whole market sold off pretty aggressively. Now, Tesla had some strength. I'm going to talk about why that was in just a few minutes, but overall, the buying pressure ended up coming in later on during the day, and Tesla has more potential, in my opinion, as a bullish wedge is developing. The short falling relative to prices dropping, which is a good sign for the bulls so far, at about 44.5 million, 44.5%, excuse me. So, anyways, when it comes to Tesla, how are things looking so far? In my opinion, honestly, guys, we're going to have to wait and see what happens with the data dropping for tomorrow. We have initial jobless claims, so that's going to affect which way it opens. However, despite that data coming out, I think there's a good chance that the market is going to make an attempt to bounce very soon because Apple is very, very oversold and it is due for a bounce. And we have some bullish divergences developing. And let me elaborate this on Tesla. So, to elaborate, when it comes to Tesla, we have this inverse head and shoulder structure that developed way down here around 245. And Tesla didn't end up breaking below its low at 242, which is a decent sign because when you look at the 30 minutes time frame, Tesla had this low right here at 242. Right, this time the low came out at 245, so it's a slight increase in Tesla's buying pressure at these higher levels, and that's a decent sign for Tesla. We have this imbalance up here at 255, and Tesla's starting to form a bullish wedge, which is a good sign for it. Now, in my opinion, what seems very probable are two possibilities. Tesla could gap down when we open, listen to me carefully, depending on initial jobless claims, then get a very nice bounce and a push up to about 255 plus. Or we could just, hold around this level and just start pushing for 255 tomorrow. I think there's a high probability of Tesla trying to bounce. Now, I'm not just saying this because of Tesla alone. And please note, I can't always account for every piece of news, but just based off technicals, that seems very probable because when you look at SPY came down pretty hard as well. We were calling out some downside on SPY for quite a while. I was telling you guys it was looking more bearish. I kept on calling this out. And Aapl, the same thing happened to Aapl. Now, when you look at SPY, we got this, bearish divergence over here, and SPY started selling off. As this thing sold off, it's attracted to where this imbalance was, but it doesn't have to come all the way down there. Two possibilities on SPY. It either kind of gaps down, sells off to like 442, and then it bounces after that and starts pushing up, or the bottom is in at 444 or around the 444 zone. And now we have this inverse head and shoulders. It's going to push all the way back up above the 200 EMA to make its way back up to 448. So two possibilities. We either push up to 448 from here going into tomorrow, or we gap down, get one last drop to like 442, and then we get the bounce all the way back up to these levels. I think that's very probable, but I'm leaning more into the direction that the bottom is in, and this thing's going to just try pushing for 448 very soon. Part of the reason why I'm saying that is because of Aapl. Apple's RSI went all the way down to like 5 on some of these indicators, or even like 12. Like if you look at the 30 minutes bottom, the RSI hit about, came all the way down here to like, what is this, like 9 or 10, very, very low. So pretty crazy stuff. Now, the thing about Aapl is it was very, very oversold, and this thing is due for a bounce. If you look at the MACD, it's going to try to bounce relatively soon. It was very oversold. It still hasn't given us that sign of strength just yet, but what's important to note is that it's approaching its support and it's trying to hold up. And then on top of that, on the 5-minute time frame, we have a bullish divergence that developed on the MACD and the RSI. So that tells me, okay, either 181.5 was the bottom, it's already in, and Apple's going to try pushing for 184 plus, or it's going to drop to 180 and then get the bounce. So gap down 180, then we get a nice bounce after that back to 184. So it's got to be one of those two. It depends on how we open on initial jobless claims, but I think Apple's going to push up to 184 plus very, very soon. I think the QQQ is going to follow the trend. The QQQ has a nice inverse head and shoulder structure as well with the bullish divergence. Could be pushing for 377 very, very soon. However, there is a possibility it kind of like gaps down first, depending on initial jobless claims, and then we get the push up. So either we push up from here to 377, or we kind of like gap down, retest 372 to 370, and then we get the push one more time back up to the higher levels. I hope that's as clear as possible. I'm not really saying it's either going to go up or down. I'm stating that it's going to either push up from here, or it kind of like gaps down when we open, and then it starts pushing up as soon as we open tomorrow. I'm leaning in that direction for the QQQ. For Nvidia, this is kind of mixed because it made an attempt to bounce off this 465 area, and that's the level we were talking about in my previous videos. You guys remember I was talking about this imbalance on Nvidia? It came down here. It's very, very close to support, but I don't know if it's going to hit like 463 and then try to bounce back up to 475, or if it just goes to 475 from here. I am in the middle when it comes to Nvidia. It could drop a little bit more and then get the bounce, or it could just bounce from here towards these imbalances and try to make its way back up to like 475. I'm not 100% sure about it just yet. We do have a bullish divergence that has been developing, but I need to see how it opens first, because throughout the day, Nvidia was very sideways, very choppy, didn't really make much of a very, very large move. But my gut is telling me, however, that what's a little bit more likely would be us testing 475 tomorrow and getting a small bounce. I'm leaning a little bit more in that direction, but I'm always open-minded just to be safe. Microsoft is looking a little bit more bullish, could gap down tomorrow to like 332, then push up for 334. Looking at something else such as like SPX, we also have a bullish divergence on SPX in this unfilled gap up here. If it breaks above 4480, we're going to be watching it push up for 44, almost 4500, which could push the market up higher. So there's potential for that. On the Nasdaq, same thing. There's potential to retest and fill this gap up here around like 13,900. Could get a nice push up, but we need to see it hold above 13,900 first for us to get a bigger move. But overall, nice inverse head and shoulders. A bullish possibility is a real possibility. Looking at the VIX, we have a bearish divergence that formed right here. It's starting to reject. We need to see it break below the 200 on the 5-minute time frame. If it breaks below 14.23 and starts sinking, that would be because of the market bouncing. There is most definitely potential for it. On the dollar index, on the 30 minutes time frame, there's a bearish divergence that developed on it, which suggests that it could seem a little bit more downside. We need to break above the 20 EMA first and make our way down to like 104.75 or lower, and then we could see this thing start sinking. If that's the case, it could help the market pump a little bit. But there is a bearish divergence suggesting that there could be more downside for the dollar. That in turn could lead this thing to dropping and the market potentially getting a small bounce. So the dollar and the VIX are kind of like suggesting the same thing. The 10-year yield is not really doing that. The Google stock, it looks like it's trying to bounce too, but not showing much strength right here. I want to see it hold above 135.75 first, and then we could push up for 136.25 or higher. So far, it's looking like it's trying to balance, but it's not looking that strong. So we might get a small little attempt for 136. Same thing with Amazon, exact same level. We could see this thing try to push it for 136.25. There is potential for it on the PPO, and it looks like Amazon's showing some life, especially when you look at this imbalance around 136. I think Amazon's going to push for that. Meta, same thing. 301 is a real possibility looking at this current structure. Nice accumulation, nice bullish divergence as well on the 30 minutes time frame. I could see this thing going to 301 for tomorrow. Very, very small push up. Anyways, guys, hopefully this video was helpful. For Tesla for tomorrow, we could see it gap down, retest like 249, then start pushing up higher for this 255 area, or it might just start pushing for 255 immediately. We have a bullish wedge developing on it, and there's potential for Tesla to push higher. So the odds do favor more upside, but just to be safe, always be open-minded. If Tesla can't hold 250 for tomorrow, then there could be more downside, but we need some kind of bad piece of news to cause that. And as of right now, I'm not really seeing that. So I'm leaning more in the direction of a bounce coming to Tesla for tomorrow and a retest of 255. That's what I'm predicting, and that's where I'm leaning towards. Always be open-minded and do what you have to do. And with that said, I thank you all so much for listening. Have a great day, everyone. Remain calm, cool, and collected, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for the next video. Thank you, and peace out.